Welcome back to A Faster Me. You are joining us here at the season opener for the Majestic series. This is the one of my favorite courses, just by how well I did last year. So something in it suits me. I had a few goals of getting a good start and drafting more efficiently. So those were kind of my two main goals this time. So I have two teammates in here, Ashley and Marlaina, and we all lined up at the front, and that is Ashley off the front, and I'm just trying to kind of hold her wheel, and she kind of settles in, not doing too hard of an effort, so off the front is okay if you're not working too hard, but here there's a little bit of work around the corner, but here she kind of shuts it down and backs off a little bit.
Just clarification too, she's actually, on the front doing a pull.
Yeah,
Kind
not
of
off the front.
Yeah, off the front is kind of like when you go on a breakaway or whatever, or you do an attack or something off the front. But just a little technicality, and I'm just kind of being anal. But yeah, great job by Ashley. This is only Ashley's like third race, so yeah, she did a great job. Just a good start and just being really assertive, and she's learning the craft really fast. And yeah, so even now after the two girls pass by, she just slots in really easily and no panic or anything, just staying really calm.
Yeah, I told her go ahead and jump on that wheel. She may not have wanted to. Just learning racing with teammates. This is the first year that we've maybe had some more consistent races together where skill levels are maybe comparable. So it's just different to know, hey, should I take that wheel and let a teammate slide in behind me, or just let them take it, and then we're kind of guaranteed multiple spots here in the front of the race. And that was my goal, just to be, all of our goal was to stay towards the front and then just kind of see how we felt later. And it is so much easier drafting, so I think I need to consistently work on drafting. So
Yeah, and the theme of the day, as you let Juliana in right here, the theme of the day is Tess Edwards. I believe her name is Tess Edwards up there in the gold. As you can see, she's trying to stretch it out a little bit and get the legs warm, but she's incredibly strong rider and, had a good day. But the pace is pretty good. It's not too hot yet, but you guys are doing a great job being single file. And we've kind of talked about this before. Anytime the race is single file means it's kind of fast. Even if it's just fast for the conditions, because the road is really wet. And, you guys probably seen on the news, if you're not from California, that, yeah, we've had some incredibly cold weather the last couple days, including this area, and where we live in Fontana has gotten snow, and it really never snows this low. And we've had about 2 hours of snow on Saturday. So this is the second race of the day, and it was incredibly wet out there.
yeah, they were blowing puddles off of the course before it started, but really the conditions didn't seem too bad. And it's such a different race in the front of the race where you're just going a consistent speed versus the yo-yo in the back, because this felt a lot easier. But I even heard the announcers talking about that being stretched out. Hey, the pace is fast. There's Marlaina, well, Cassidy in the orange helmet, kind of doing a little bit of an attack up the left side. And here's Marlaina, hot pink toes lady, one of her aliases. And just met Juliana. I let her slot in again. So fun riding with her, very strong. It's only maybe she's only done a couple of races as well, but I'd say she has a lot of potential as well, just, racing strong like this.
Yeah, and she does a great job too of just slotting in kind of naturally and following wheels. The good thing about being new to racing is we have a lot of really good and fast group rides in California. They're full of just racers, including professional racers. Yeah, so you can get a lot of experience for some of our group rides as far as how to ride in a pack and stuff like that. Racing and group rides are not the same, but it does give you the ability to get comfortable riding pace lines and just riding in a group.
For sure. They're, and when I let her slot in, I kind of second guess myself, like, should I be holding Marlena's wheel or, is it good to let someone else go in? She seemed like a decent wheel to follow, but just kind of hard to know when you really fight for the wheel and when it's okay to, give up a position.
Yeah, and I would say here, fourth position, fifth position, there's really not much different. Since you have a teammate in front, you don't not have to stay on your teammate's wheel. Part of being at the front is, being that it's smoother, things like that. But it's also being able to cover moves. And since there's two of you up there, if something goes off the front, Marlaina's in good position to cover it. And if she can't grab it, you're still close enough to where you could cover it. So having a rider in between you, especially if it's a rider that is steady and has a good wheel to hold, yeah, it's not that big of a deal.
And the girl in green is I believe, a collegiate rider. End up working with her a little bit later, but there's a little bit of looks like a attack.
Yeah, she's pretty strong out of Cal Poly. I'm not sure of her name, but yeah, she was a pretty strong rider. Really surgy.
Yeah, so here I let probably a few too many positions go by, so just not kind of reacting as maybe quick as I should have. But still not bad position. I'm going to just slide in behind Lisa here. and you can see the pace is just stretched out, so it's moving pretty fast, but for whatever reason it didn't feel as fast or as hard as some previous races, and I don't know if that just is maybe my fitness is coming together a little bit better, or had a few workouts this weekend, or if it really is just the positioning where it's more steady towards the front versus
It's the positioning.
versus the yo-yo effect. And
I wouldn't say the yo-yo effect necessarily, even though of course that is a big factor as Jules kind of slots in right here with Lisa. But I think the biggest thing is you just drafted way better this race. You're actually drafting instead of riding off to the side, and that just makes a big difference. I mean, you're putting in high watts now. That's because, people are pushing the pace. But, it feeling easier is because you are a lot more efficient in this race than you have been in the last so many races.
well, hopefully that's a sign of good things to come and consistent drafting. And here it is starting to stretch out again, so it looks like somebody's putting in kind of a hard effort, and yeah, we are really stretched out.
I'm pretty sure that's Miss Edwards on the front out there, putting the power down. I don't want to give it away too much, but yeah, I mean, she's super strong. And this is a kind of slightly downhill here, and usually you're going to be above 25 miles per hour if you're putting the hammer down a little bit, and often you'll be above 30 here. So you guys are actually, you're putting in some pace now. It's a good job here, I think, if you sit on this wheel here from Cal Poly, instead of bridging that gap yourself, you have a teammate up the road, so it's not that big of a deal if there is a small break. And if you're going to chase your teammate, let someone else do the work and get a free ride up there.
Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about that. Sometimes, I went back and forth like, hey, do I put in the effort or do I just kind of trust having a teammate up there? So still, sometimes the in the race decisions, I'm still kind of second guessing.
Yeah, but the thing is, you have a rule of don't chase your teammate. But if someone else is chasing, that's not considered chasing your teammate. You're just jumping on, getting a free ride. You don't want multiple other people to get up there and bridge to the break.
Yeah, and there, Ashley passed me, and she looked back at me. I think she kind of said, let's go. And then we kind of looked at each other and slowed down a little bit. And later we talked, not really sure if we should be putting in the effort to bridge with our teammate up there, but then kind of jumped on some other wheels who were bridging. And yeah, it's just sometimes hard to know.
Yeah, and talking to Ashley after the race, she was saying that once she passed, she thought you were still on her wheel, and it's the other young lady on the wheel. So she kind of does a great job of, she pulls for her lap a little bit, but then she does a great job because Ashley actually puts in a nice dig, and she's successful bridging to the front of the group, which is like maybe 8 riders in a breakaway.
And it's so funny because I do not remember me taking this pull in the race. So in my memory after the race, I just remember Ashley kind of going by and getting on her wheel, and then at some point I'm off the back. But here I am putting in an effort as well to bridge that gap, and it looks like, I'm a little bit closer to the group,
Yeah.
or they may have slowed down a little bit. But yeah, I do not remember doing this pull right here.
Yeah, and I think it's a little bit ill-advised. Not because that you're trying to put in the effort to bridge the gap, but if you look at the like 30, 40 seconds before you put in the effort, you're pretty high watts trying to chase Ashley and the other young lady. You had your watts up pretty high, and your heart rate was in the 170s, and that's like maxed out for you. So, when you're just came off of a very hard effort, let someone else chase that. There was 2 other people that weren't your teammates there. Let them chase it. And see, now that Ashley comes by, because you had put in such a hard effort now about a minute ago, now it's hard for you to jump onto that wheel.
Yeah, it's easy to see when you see the numbers, but in the race, sometimes you're not looking at the numbers and not looking at the computer. And just watching this, you can see how kind of unorganized we are in chasing. So it's like a lot of individual efforts and some short attacks where if some of us would work together a little bit more organized, you could bring it back. But,
Yeah.
Sometimes people don't want that either. They'd rather do that hard effort and not have someone else work together. So everyone's goals are just different because some people maybe think they have the best chance being in a breakaway. Some people have a better chance sprinting. So
Yeah, I think the basic rule to follow is if you have a teammate that's behind you, that's a sprinter, and you want to run down the group, that's one thing. But if you do not, if you're not trying to bring it back to stay in a bunch, then you don't want to pull or work with others to get to the front. You want to attack like Ashley did and bridge solo. Or if anyone jumps on your wheel, they're going to have to put in a hard effort. You don't want to give people a free ride to bridge to the front unless you're bridging for a reason, unless you're pulling it back for a reason, like you have a sprinter behind you and you want to keep the whole group together. But you don't just work with the group to pull back the breakaway just because. There should be some tactics in it, especially if you have teammates. If you're riding solo, then that's a little different. But yeah, you typically want to either bridge solo and make people have to put in a big effort to jump on your wheel if they're going to get a free ride on you, or if there's a reason to pull it back and you agree with some other people to, hey, work and pull it back, that's a different story.
And so at this point, my goal was to not pull it back and not do any work. So I was just going to draft as much as possible right here. So I have Lisa in front of me and the collegiate rider in green, in front of her. And I think we pick up one rider because there was 4 of us. Cassidy is
I think
with
she's
the
in
orange
front. Yeah.
helmet. So she had, did quite a few little attacks. And then there's going to be the 4 of us in a group.
Yeah.
Not sure how much everyone wanted to work together, but we were kind of together. And my goal was to just kind of sit in until I think you were saying, hey, 30 seconds. So we at some point started to pull the group in, and then I tried to maybe, work together. But my mindset right here was to not. And I didn't mention that the race is composed of some junior riders, 2 different collegiate level racers, and the category 4 or 5 women.
Yeah, I think your decision to sit here is the right decision now because you saw Ashley put in a hard effort to bridge. You have 2 teammates in a breakaway. There's no reason for you to put in a hard effort now and drag the rest of the women up there. I think it's good. You have 2 out of 8 women in the break, or 2 out of 7, however many are in the breakaway, and that's pretty good odds for having 2 teammates up there in the break. And I don't think anyone else has a teammate in the break. They're all individual riders up there. So it's the right decision not to run it down. I also say, too, later in the race when I was telling you that you guys are catching, that's different because it was when there was a separate breakaway. So you were chasing you're actually chasing a chase group.
Mm-hmm.
So when you guys came to like 6 seconds behind the chase group, that's when I was saying, yes, work together because then you can bridge to that chase group. But, it wasn't trying to bring back the front. It was just bridging to the chase group.
And I wasn't aware that there was a breakaway at that time because I didn't know that Tess had gone off and made up quite a bit of time. And it's so fun to see videos. I think Smash has a video out as well, and it's just really cool to see the race from a different perspective. You can see yourself, you can see different moves at different times. So it's great to see some other women recording and having the race out from different angles. I
Yeah.
know Summer has some videos out. Unfortunately, she wasn't here in this race, but yeah, just really good to have some different perspectives.
Yeah, and it's good because she was in the front group, and she made the breakaway. So it's good to see the video from the break, and then of course the video from the chase group. So yeah, it's definitely good to see different angles and from different points of the race or whatever. Kind of merge them together, and you get the full picture.
Yeah, and I think she bridged shortly before Ashley did, so that was cool to just see it. You know, what different points that people make their moves, and you know.
Yeah. I'd say props to Ashley also because Ashley's a lighter rider and she's a really good climber. And sometimes she thinks like she's not good on the flats. But in order for her to put in that type of attack and bridge the front group that was carrying really good speed, that definitely proves that, yeah, you can carry speed on the flats. It's not just about your weight or not being blown around in the wind kind of thing. So, yeah, try not to, this is just to everybody, try not to kind of pencil yourself in as a certain type of rider because you're definitely capable of being a little bit more well-rounded.
And you can work on the things that you're not as good at, which is always encouraging. So if you're not so good at sprinting, put in some work and do those efforts, and that can improve. If you're not so good at climbing, you know, sometimes put in those work. And obviously people are naturally better at certain things, but we can always improve the areas that they're not. And man, this collegiate rider is doing a lot of hard work, a TT effort.
Yeah.
Here closing, and I see Lisa suffering a little bit, and she said she was really in the hurt locker this day. We all have our days. So I went around and just decided to sit here, and there Cassidy goes, so I kind of jump on her.
Yeah, and you guys are putting in some hard efforts. I mean, you know, the group out front is flying, and you guys are going very similar speed. At one point, you're bringing them back, you know, so yeah, it's not an easy race, even though, like you said, it felt easy. But like I said, it feels easy because you're doing a much better job of drafting. You see here, you're just putting in less than 200 watts, and often in some of the other races, you'd be riding off to the right or the left, putting in 270 watts, kind of thinking you're drafting, but just riding next to the rider. But yeah, I think it's just a good effort by a lot of people. And the girl from Cal Poly, you know, compliments to her because she pretty much has one gear. She goes hard, just like pretty much this entire race. And it pays off, though. Like, you know, it pays off in the end.
And I wasn't as worried about her, just with her being in a different category. So the scoring is separate. So I was trying to use as much of her energy when I could. And you can even see sometimes my watts have dropped, you know, well below 100 even. And Cassidy's quite a bit smaller than myself, so the draft benefit isn't as significant, but it still is incredibly helpful. So you can see the last, 5-6 laps. I haven't done any work off the front. I've just followed every one of the girls that I'm riding with, their wheels.
Yeah, it's still a good dig, though. Cassidy's putting in some work here. She's not cruising. So she's putting in some good power. And, you know, you are too, honestly. Like, even when you're behind her, yeah, when it drops down to 100, that's pretty low. But when you're hovering around 160, 170, that's still a pretty good effort.
And my power, I think, averaged 200, maybe normalized 210. So it's still a really hard effort. It just, for whatever reason, felt a lot easier. So, you know, I maybe had moments where I was cruising a little bit more. You can see on the right some lapped riders. We did lap a number of riders on the course.
Yeah. You know, another thing, too, about just, like you're saying, how the effort felt, is this is a very fast-flowing crit, and that helps, too, with how your legs are going to feel because it's not as stop and start. Even though you put in some hard efforts here and there, like, you're constantly pedaling the whole time. You're not, it's not a light switch. It's kind of smooth power, so that usually helps a lot as well.
There, Cassidy was flicking elbows furiously. and I was wondering, I think it may save a little energy or a little bit of effort. I don't know, maybe to go by like on the corners on the inside. If you kind of pull off and you can save some energy instead of taking your pull around the outside. But, just
Yeah, but that's more in a corner. You guys, you technically passed her on a straight. But yeah. So the rule of thumb kind of is, for the most part, when you're rotating, you're going to rotate into the wind. A circuit like this, there's not as much wind, and I know it gets windy here, but it's protected by some of these buildings, and usually only one spot, one section of the course would be exposed to the wind. But I would say here, yeah, you want to let the pace line go through on the inside and rotate to the outside.
and there the collegiate rider comes by and didn't seem like a pull. It seemed more like she was attacking because she just like you said,
It's
goes.
full gas. Yeah.
Yep. And not sure if it. I wasn't sure if she was trying to work together or if she was trying to tax everyone else. It's just hard to know because sometimes, the effort is much different in the draft, and so you kind of get the adrenaline going. And a lot of times when people take their polls, there is a pretty big surge. Even you see it like when you're riding, with
She looks like she's
teammates or
definitely
friends.
attacking.
But yeah, so
Yeah, it looks like that was a definite attack. Look at that gap.
yeah,
Yeah. So
we might not be bringing that back. I can't remember.
yeah, I'm pretty sure you do. Not 100%, but yeah, I'm pretty sure you do bring it back. I don't know if Cassidy brings it back or if you do, but yeah, I'm pretty sure you guys get back on her. And the three of you work for a little while. I think Lisa might be done right now, but I think the three of you work for another lap or two.
Well, we'll see. I guess we're seeing now. But man, this is a lot of hard work by Cassidy also.
Yeah. I mean, you can tell she's in a big gear because her cadence is a little slower. You have a really nice, smooth cadence going, 90, 85 and above. So, yeah, you're saving a little bit of energy there. And there you guys go. Cassidy brought it back.
Good work. And I was able to take the ride.
Yeah, and I know last week we talked about cornering and just being a little bit too wide on the straight. And I think this week you guys are doing a lot better. As you can see, like I said, when you're kind of riding in a smaller group, as a rule of thumb, just kind of start off at about the center line. You don't have to do that. I'm just saying if you're not so familiar with cornering, kind of start off there and then you can adjust from that point. But going this speed, you don't need to be as wide. If you're doing 27, 30, stuff like that, you might take a wider approach. But at this speed, you can be a little bit tighter like you were on that one. You don't want to be really tight, but because basically the rule of thumb is you want your bike to be leaned over as little as possible. As you lean your bike over, there's a little bit more friction. The tire compresses a little bit more. You lose speed. You don't want that. You want your bike to be as straight up and down as possible. And you want to take the line that allows you to pedal as long as possible as well, and as soon as possible once you hit your apex.
That's another thing that's nice about the course is it's so wide. So it kind of does not matter the line that you take in the corners because you can run out. There's a lot of space in between, and there goes Cassidy again with a hard effort.
Yeah, I think she skipped the rotation. The Cal Poly girl should be pulling now, but Cassidy is like, no, I'm going for it. Another thing too about this circuit is it's already fast. It's always been fast. I think last year in my races here we averaged 27 something. We always average roughly 27 in the Cat 4s, but it was freshly paved, and on the south side of the course, it used to be full of big potholes, caused a lot of issues in previous races. And so this year it was freshly paved, and it just makes the surface really good, for crit racing.
It was nice, I must say.
Yeah, so Cal Poly's back on the front, just hammering away. Look, like legs like pistons, just up, down, and just, putting in that power. And yeah, she's really determined, really strong rider. Look at her profile with a flat back. Really aero, just can carry a lot of speed here, and definitely has a lot of like a diesel type engine, just smooth and just powering away.
Yep, pretty nice to just be taking the ride and not doing too much work. A couple more riders that were coming around.
Yeah, so that's not. I think you take a good line there. The girl from Cal Poly went a little wide, never really had a. I don't think she really had a specific apex. She didn't really have a target at the corner. But yeah, that's just. I don't know how long she's been racing. I don't. We don't know her or whatever. But that's just something that maybe she can work on. Is just a little bit of the corner ability. That one was much better.
And there's a little gap for whatever reason. For whatever reason, that corner was not my biggest friend. Sometimes coming into the, start finish line, I was having a little bit of a gap. So some of the other corners felt a little bit better at, but
Well,
that corner was not my best friend.
I can take a couple guesses. One, because I crashed there last year and landed on my face and had a concussion, so that's probably a little fresh in your mind. And at the beginning of the day, there was a huge puddle in the middle of that corner. It's dried up now, but there was a huge corner when we took your warm-up laps and when we were setting up. So it's just something you kind of mark in your head. And there's been crashes in that corner in the past, like numerous crashes.
It could be it. Could be it. Subconsciously, who knows? Or it could also be that that's where people are going into always putting a hard effort coming across the start-finish line for either a preem or the end or for the crowd. So people could be putting in a little harder effort, too. So
What are you doing here?
Here
Oh,
I see that
flat.
Cassidy started to spit some of the sealant, and so I told her, hey, I think you have a flat, and she initially said, it feels okay. I said, maybe it seals again, because I'm not so familiar with tubeless tires, and then a few seconds later, she goes, oh, I feel it, and so she was done, unfortunately.
Yeah.
That was the end of her race, so sad to see all that hard work not be able to have a result.
Yeah, because she was definitely in the mix there, and could have had a better finish. But I think the problem was when she pulled in. I think there's only maybe 3 laps to go now, and she's not allowed to have a free lap after that point. So it kind of sucks to flat at the end of a race because you're kind of just done. But just kudos to Cassidy for putting in the hard effort, and she did a good job racing today.
And here goes Cal Poly again, and she may leave me in the dust here shortly. And Cassidy did say that she got a nail in the tire, so it was pretty nasty of a flat.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a pretty hard effort. And honestly, it's a good strategy by her. There's only 2 of you now. So she doesn't want to wait till a sprint. So she goes on the attack now. And since she has that nice long power, I think it's the best move for her. Don't wait till the end of the race if you're not a sprinter or if you're not sure you can beat the other person. Go ahead and just give it a go early.
And that's what she did, and I was left in the dust. And I wasn't too worried about it because she was a different category, but yeah, you never like to get left in the dust.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know, competitively you're putting in a good effort. I'm not sure if you catch her again, but,
I do not.
she's pretty strong, and it's late in the race, so yeah, it's just a good effort. And at some point, I think maybe after you guys slowed down, I don't think there's anyone catching you guys, but you were catching the front group for a little bit. And I don't think she thinks she's can bridge at this point because they're a good maybe 30 seconds in front of you guys now. But yeah, it's just a good effort by her, good strategy, and kudos to her for pulling it off.
And what's really exciting is we were able to utilize some team tactics in the front group. Ashley, when she was able to bridge, she was able to kind of go to the front. So Marlaina knew she was there. At one point, Marlaina kind of fell back. They were able to kind of talk, and Ashley was able to lead her out, and Marlaina sprinted to win the bunch sprint to come in second. So really exciting to be able to use some team tactics and work together and even kind of have some of those thoughts, because that's what makes, at least for me, that's what makes kind of my investment and excitement for racing, I don't know, there, because I don't quite have as much, enthusiasm just to come out here and do it all by myself. Crits are not my favorite friend or favorite form of suffering, but definitely the strategy with some teamwork makes it, a lot more fun for me.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's important, and I'm really Really proud of the group of people that we have this year. That is our focus. It's teamwork over everything. And as you can see, we're winning races this year and being on the podium. Part of that is just obviously the talent level of the riders this year, and the efforts people have put in the off season. But another part of it is, if you remember when Ashley went and bridged up to the breakaway, she didn't go up there just for her own purposes and to have a high finish. She went up there, worked for Marlaina, our teammate. She sacrificed herself, knowing that if she puts in that hard effort on the lead out, that she's not gonna, be on the podium herself. And that's not the goal. When we practice, we let everyone know that, hey, when you sacrifice for a teammate, that doesn't mean the teammate's gonna win and I'm gonna come in second. That means we're gonna get somebody as high as we can in the finish, and you may not even finish the race. You may be off the back. You may get dropped. And so many people will not make that sacrifice because they want to come in second, third, fourth, 10th, whatever it is. And to do that means you're not giving 100%. There's no way you can give like a full lead out, 100%, sacrifice for your teammate, and then still come in second, because that means you held back in order to, leave a little bit in reserve for yourself instead of selling out for that teammate and then letting the chips fall where they may.
Yeah, and I think Ashley comes in 7th, so she was about in the last of the chase group. There might be one person behind her, and I came in 9th. But I think you just have to be honest with, some people can't be honest with teammates. But I think if you can, it's really satisfying to work for someone else. So we're coming into the last corner. I think this is it. So I'm just going to do a decent hard effort. I'm not really catching anybody. I had the thought, should I sprint to practice what it'd be like at the end of the race? But really no need. Safety risk is not worth it, and it just is going to be what it is. So,
Yep.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in, and see you next week.
And shout out to Honey and Ronnie for the nice comments and the good commentary on the race day.
Woohoo!